So, hello and welcome along to another edition of Isolation Interviews for Hospital Radio Reading and for my YouTube channel. And well, my guest today, she's done it all. The fantastic Abigail Cruttenden. Have I pronounced that correctly?
Cruttenden.
Cruttenden. There we
Yeah.
go. So, thank you so much for joining me. How are you? Welcome along.
Very well. Yeah, very happy to be here.
And I mean, so much to talk about. I mean, obviously, some great, you've had such an amazing career, but let's go back to where it all sort of started for you. I mean, do you remember your earliest memories of knowing that performing was what you wanted to do and kind of your first sort of taste of doing it?
Yeah, well, my parents were really into amateur acting. My mum was a makeup artist. It sort of goes back quite a long way in our family. My grandmother was a drama teacher. She was an actress, a child actress actually, and a dancer. And my dad had always wanted to be an actor, but was the only child, and he went to university and his parents were really horrified, so he didn't do it. He did it very, very late on, but he died quite young, so it wasn't really the yeah, he didn't quite have the career he might have had. But yeah, it's very much in the family. So we lived in Ealing because the Questors Theatre was in Ealing, which is a really big amateur dramatics company. And so we grew up going on stage really with them. I remember Mum did The Good Person of Setswan, and we were three children in it. Now Hal, my younger brother, who's a comedian, seems to think that he was three. I thought I was three. So there's a year between us, just over a year. So maybe I was four. He might be right. He's better with the dates than I am. But I think that was the first time I was actually on stage. Um, but yeah, so we grew up doing sort of amateur dramatics basically. But then I did start doing professional work when I was 11, which was just a chance thing. I was at a normal school and my drama teacher was approached to see if there were any girls of about 11 for a BBC Play for Today to play Joss Ackland's daughter in something. And so I did that. And then I sort of started working professionally, really.
I mean, obviously, starting off so young, do you think that helped you kind of sort of? Because I think when you're younger, you don't really get nervous as much. So, do you think being younger helped?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think I haven't really known anything else. I think there are pros and cons. I think there are real pros in yeah, in as you say, it just being sort of part of your life. It's not really even a question almost. And I just carried on doing it. I did always want to do it as well. I was certainly wasn't pushed into it. And my parents were a bit like, when I did a sitcom in the sixth form and I did a film when I was 14. And I think they were a bit worried about me being a child actor. And there are definitely things where I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I think it sets you apart at a time when you don't want to be set apart. You want to be like everyone else and you just want to have your normal life. So with my daughters, they haven't done that. And I think there was a kind of moment where I went, you know what, it's probably better not to, maybe. My youngest does want to be an actress now, but she's at university at the moment. So we're kind of just staving that off, but I think it's going to happen.
Now, obviously, going back to kind of, do you remember the first time you were on a stage and the buzz you got? How
Yeah.
was that as a feeling? Tell us about that.
Um, yeah, I do remember the buzz. I absolutely loved it. Um, I think I'm doing a play at the moment and it's still the same buzz and it's actually about I think it's about just it's about stage very specifically rather than filming. You're totally being someone else, but you are also really communicating with people, with an audience. We had a funny thing. I'm doing A Man for All Seasons at the moment at the Harold Pinter, and we did like a tour of it first, and then we had about 3 months off, and we re-rehearsed for a couple of weeks, and it was really odd re-rehearsing because you suddenly thought, oh, there's something, oh, it's not working anymore, it's not working, and as soon as we got onto the stage you realized that we were just missing an audience and how much an audience is affects us all the time, you know, and it's been funny being in a play where you don't build up to an audience, but you build up to an audience and then you take it away and you go back in the rehearsal room and you really miss it. You know, they're so much part of a production.
And I mean, the other thing as well is, you get to travel, when you're traveling around the country, do you find that audiences in different parts of the country react differently to, that you might be, the same play, but different areas get different things. And do you find that it kind of is a regional thing?
There's a line in it about Wales. So the closer we got to Wales, the funnier people found that. So there were kind of little things like that. But I think well, A Man for All Seasons, for example, is very, very pertinent to our times. And even though it was written in the 60s, it's about laws and about being true to who you are and not bending to the will of the prevailing, well, monarch in those days, but, you know, whatever, Trump or whatever, you know, whoever.
And I mean, obviously, it must be quite a joy to get to travel around and to see lots of different theatres because, some people might have the view that theatre is very much a London thing, which it isn't. And I
No.
mean, you must enjoy getting out into our beautiful country and just seeing how many amazing theatres there are all over the country.
Definitely. That is a really wonderful thing to do. And I think also there's something about regional theatre which is less oh, I don't want to do down London theatre because I love London theatre, but um sometimes the audiences can be a bit like, oh, it's the thing you're meant to do. And, you know, a company will buy a whole load of seats and people go because that's the thing to see at the time. Where in regional theatre, you know, you feel like it's a bit more, people have really chosen, they really want to see that production and they're coming to see it, you know, and they'll travel quite a way because you'll be, say, in York or, you know, but you might come, you know, from, I don't know where, but, you know, a little way out in a slightly different way. I don't know. Well, I suppose people come to London to see the theatre, but it feels like it's more people are driven to see this production for whatever reason it is. I remember when I worked ages ago in Salisbury and really being struck by, because we'd all end up in the bar afterwards at front of house, so you'd be mixing with all the audience, and I was really struck by how people were so engaged and wanted to talk about the issues, it was about suffragettes, but it was yeah, it felt really engaged in a slightly different way.
Now, obviously, you've had an amazing career, and I was just looking back, and you've been working since the 80s. It's for you, is there a role that means the most to you? Is there one that you're proudest of, or that just, I don't know, just felt extra special when you were doing it?
Um, I think, well, I mean, been lots of really of roles that I've loved, but I think there is one that really has meant a lot to me, which was just before lockdown. We finished just in time, and it was at the Globe in the Sam Wanamaker, and it was playing Elizabeth I. And it was a play that Ella Hickson wrote that was um it was about women in power, really, and there was only four of us in it. And a young actress, Nina Cassels, who was wonderful, would played the kind of young Elizabeth, and then I took over from her, and each of us played the women round her when we weren't Elizabeth, if you see what I mean. But playing Elizabeth I was really it quite changed uh me slightly. You know, there's some of those roles where you definitely you use yourself, but you use a part of yourself that you hadn't really brought out before, maybe. So I remember the director was very Natalie Abrahami, who was really she would say to me, Abby, go lower. Use your why you know, don't stop being so high. Get lower, like, bring it down. And it was so like, oh, this is really empowering. Oh, yes. And sort of don't apologize all the time. And those things that women do that I think almost universally, I'm more aware of them. I think we're more aware of them as we get older, but just that thing, well, like saying just, for example, where you write a email and you say, oh, just saying this, please don't let me get in the way. I'm just going to be, and and it was amazing to play somebody who was really bold and forthright and had to be, obviously there were huge strains within that, but it was very empowering. So I now feel like Elizabeth first. I don't.
No, I mean, the other thing that must be quite strange is obviously, when you're an actor and you're kind of in the public eye, people want to talk to you and all that kind of stuff. Do you find fame weird? Is it something you can ever really get your head around?
I'm not really very famous. I don't really have that. I mean, I have the absolute nicest version actually. And my brother does too, which is people vaguely think they know you. So I think I get smiled at slightly more because they think, oh, I know her. And that's perfect as far as I'm concerned. But sometimes people might say, oh, aren't you so and so from whatever? But very rarely,
I mean,
you
I
know.
mean, I mean, do you remember the first time it happened and kind of what sort of era, like what project you were working on at the time and how you found it? Was it odd or was it quite interesting?
I think I was probably quite young when it first happened, teenage. So that was just mortifyingly embarrassing. Um, and made you really, really self-conscious. And so I think that's how I felt then. But it's just really nice now. I don't mind at all. It's actually just really nice. It's like, I have a really perfect level of not a Z-list celebrity.
And I mean, I think it must be quite a nice thing that you've had such a varied career. I mean, obviously, we will talk about some of the comedy projects you've worked on because I'm a big fan of Not Going Out, so we have to talk about that. But obviously, I know one of the kind of the projects you worked on sort of early on in your career was obviously Sharpe, and that's quite, a big show. So, what was that like to be a part of and to play the role of Jane Sharpe?
It was really fun. Yeah, you can imagine because we used to go out to, well, they used to go out to Russia originally. They used to go out to the Ukraine, but when by the time I was doing it, we were used to go to Turkey. Um, there were lots of all the soldiers, all the apart from the Sharpe's men, there were then all the background artists who were all reenactors and I remember my first day on set and going into a tent and I was in full costume and I wandered into this tent by mistake. It wasn't my tent, it was the tent where all the reenactors were. And as I went in, they all were in character all the time. And as I walked in, one of them shouted, have a care, gentlemen, have a care. And they were totally, and I was thought, oh God, I don't know what am I meant to do in period? And I just went, oh, and sort of left again quickly. But so it was quite fun because you did get a real sense of the period because you had people that were living it all the time and really loving it, and that was great. Tom Clegg, who directed it, was just a lovely man, and so yeah, we had a lot of fun.
And you must love when you get to, dress up and really, the costumes on those sorts of productions are normally fantastic. So to get to properly get into costume and to really get in, immerse yourself in that time period, that must be so much fun.
Yeah, it does really help actually. I mean, I've got a corset behind me up there. I mean, it's also not that comfortable, but actually you do kind of get used to them, and when you've worn them a lot. And I started wearing. I remember the first play I did in the West End. Actually, I was 18, and I wore a corset for 9 months. I think it actually, they suit me better than most people because it sort of actually changes your body. I think if you're that young. um, but yeah, it is great. It is really great, actually. And you do get a real feeling of history in a way that um, there's there's no other way to get it, really. And you so then know the period that you're in because you've been, when you're filming and you're wandering around these old places and they've made it exactly like it would have been, it is a bit magical that you're, in the right clothes and it is great. I do
Now,
love that.
now, obviously, very different to Sharpe, Benidorm. We have to talk about that. And I mean, you must love being a part of comedy because I mean, I've spoken to quite a few sort of actors in the past that have done or do, sort of comedies and stuff like that. And when it really hits the mark and you get it right, it is just a joy to be a part of. So, I mean, for you, I mean, what was it like being a part of the Benidorm family?
Oh, lovely. And we're still actually, the original lot. So I did the first 3 years, and the original lot are still really close. We still really see each other, and I mean, probably all the rest of them are as well. It's only that I know the first 3 years. I've just made a short film actually, and Nick, who's my husband in Benidorm, was in it. Um, and you know, it was properly fun. The first year, my children were quite young. So I had a 2-year-old, and Evie, my elder daughter, was 7, and she was at school, and I took her out for a term. It was a big deal. And because I couldn't leave them for that long. And my husband's a writer, so we just packed the car up, got the ferry across to Bilbao, and drove across Spain. It was absolutely amazing. Um, and then filmed there. Joe, my husband, did tutored Merle, Evie. Merle's my young one. Didn't tutor Merle; she was only 2. And and it was amazing. It was really brilliant. And just really, really lovely people. And who Siobhan Finner, and her children are sort of similar ages. So then, they'd come out, and it was really great.
I mean,
Yeah.
when you're doing a show like that, I mean, because obviously you're out there, you're filming, I imagine it's quite warm out there. Do you
Yeah.
get much time to kind of chill out and relax and have a bit of a holiday while you're out there?
Yeah, I mean, the first year, it really wasn't warm. We were filming in October, November, and somehow a lot of the pool scenes were sort of November almost. And actually, it's not that hot then. I mean, it does have a microclimate, Benidorm, because it's in the cove that it's in. But I suppose that's why it's so famous. But yeah, it's not that warm. Those a lot of those swimming pool scenes, we've got wetsuits on up to our waists, and then we're looking like it's warm. And it is quite hard to pretend it's warm when it's not. But sometimes you do, when it was warm, it was gorgeous. Yeah.
And I mean, the great thing with that show is it's kind of had a bit of a resurgence recently through, streaming and all that kind of stuff. And you must love the fact that, people who maybe didn't see the show the first time around can kind of get it now and it's got like a new generation of fans. That must be quite nice for you to know that it's reaching a new audience.
Yeah, it's funny because it feels like quite a long time ago, but then, you know, because people I don't think about it being that old. So friends of my daughter's going, "Oh my God, your mum looks so young." You think, no, no, she doesn't look like that now. That was that was 20 years ago.
Now, I mean, the other show we have to talk about, I mentioned it before, Not Going Out. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you were a part of that for about 10 years. And is that one of the longest sort of projects you've been a part of for the longest period?
Yeah, I think it is the longest. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, first of all, how did that come about for you? Because obviously, Not Going Out had been going for a few, or been going for quite a while at that point, and
Yeah,
obviously, I know that every so often Lee likes to sort of bring it forward a bit. So,
yeah.
how did that come about for you, and the role that obviously everyone loves, the kind of the strict Anna role that you play so well. So, how did that come about for you?
Well, I auditioned for it about, I think, about 9 months maybe before we did it, because Lee likes to write for people, and he knew he wanted to bring these 2 characters in, and he had one scene that I auditioned with. And then when I got it, then he knew what the voice was that he was writing for, which is quite a nice thing because you know that he's kind of, it's a less nice thing when he's calling me all sorts of names and stuff in it, but uh, but yeah, so he was very kind of aware of, I think it's a useful, interesting way that he writes actually doing that. Um, and yeah, it was really funny, very good fun. I mean, Lee is exactly like he is on the telly, just all the time. He's so funny all the time. That you can't help but laugh, even if you're feeling a bit low. It's like you just laugh all day long. And Hugh as well is brilliant and very funny. And so Sally. I mean, it is a really lovely group of people. and yeah, and Jeffrey Whitehead, who play Sally's parents. Yeah, it's great. Lucy. Yeah.
And I mean, the other thing, I mean, Hugh Dennis as your husband on the show. I mean, you had that relation. People watched it and loved your chemistry on screen. I mean, so had you worked with him before that, or was that kind of meeting him and kind of having to quickly form that bond?
Yeah, no, I didn't know him before. Um, but he's a really just such a lovely guy that it's just very easy to be, you know, and yeah, it was just fun. It's just fun.
Now, obviously, being a part of the show for so long and so many episodes that people thoroughly enjoyed, was there one for you that maybe was either a favorite to film or just one that you enjoyed the most, an episode that sticks in your head as a favorite?
I think probably the very first one I did actually is my favorite, partly because Lee was incredibly kind that night because it's quite scary because I think maybe I'd done one or two, but not to that degree where you film in front of a live studio audience. It's really different to anything else that because you're playing it for the camera, but you're really aware of the reaction of the audience who are watching it on screens. And they're there and they can see you as well, but they're basically watching it on the screens. It's quite a difficult balance not to start playing it like it's theatre and get really, really big. But it's also really, I found it terrifying. I always found it terrifying. By the end, occasionally, once we were doing a series and I got into about the fourth episode, I would relax and I'd start to quite enjoy it. But most of the time I hated it. And Lee knew not to. Is chatting to the audience all the time because he's a stand-up and he's brilliant at that. So he can do that and then go into the scene. So can Hugh, who's yeah, Hugh Dennis does exactly the same thing. It turns out to the audience he completely relaxed. And Sally and I would just say, "Oh no, please don't talk to us." And you just have to, I really have to concentrate. And I was so scared that first episode that we shot. And we knocked on the front door, I think. And he opened the front door and I went wrong virtually immediately. And the audience quite like that. And um, Lee always makes a joke out of it. And subsequently, when I go wrong, he'll make sure everyone knows that I went wrong, but when I'm fine with it. But that first episode, he was just so kind. He pretended it was him, and it was so nice. And also, and then we all sat around the table, and there's a line in it where he says a little wine, and I say, and I just sticks in my head because I loved it so much, and I say, well, I'd hardly call that a little wine, and he said, no, a little wine. It comes from little, and it's like it's always in my head. Anytime anyone gives me a glass of wine, in my head goes a little wine.
I mean, playing Anna must be so much fun because she was such a sort of a bossy, controlling woman. And I mean, I
Mm.
imagine, it must be quite, when you're completely nothing like that in real life, is it quite fun to get to play that because you get to kind of do stuff you wouldn't normally get to do?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely do. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You have to ask my husband. I might be a little bit like that sometimes. Generally, I don't think I am, hopefully. But yeah, you're definitely totally using yourself, but it is just obviously so outrageous that it is really, really fun. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I do really enjoy playing it.
I mean, one of the episodes that sticks in my head was the one where Lee they're having a kitchen refurbishment done,
Mm.
and he pretends that Anna is Lucy.
Oh, yeah.
Because he can't tell the builder to get on with things, so he
Yeah,
decides to get Anna to do it. That is probably one of my favorites to watch. And I mean, there's so many great episodes. And again, it's another one of these series that people can go back and watch time and time again. And
Mm.
it never gets old, I don't think. It's always going to be sort of on topic.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I mean, they are brilliantly written, and I think it's such an incredible skill, and it's quite like there are very few, aren't there? Long running sitcoms. I mean, it's sort of I don't know what number it is. People keep saying I think maybe it's the fourth longest running sitcom or something.
It
I don't
must
know.
be something like that.
Summer Wine, something else. Anyway, I mean, it couldn't sustain if it wasn't he has an absolute rule of how many jokes have to be on each page. and and he really sticks by it. And it was the first, I think it was his idea. It was the first one that was filmed sort of slightly American style. Do you remember? And when we do it, well, I don't do it anymore, but when we did it, but when they always have the cameras moving, it's really weird when you're filming the first time. So you're so not used to that because there's quite a lot of cameras. And they're all sort of dancing around the whole time you're filming. But that's a very American, I think, that thing. You don't, and you really notice that, I think, when you watch American things, you think, oh yes, that is the same style as that, even though it is a very British comedy.
I mean, the other thing I just wanted to briefly mention, the fantastic Bobby Ball, who obviously was, I mean, he's just hilarious, and I mean, it's such a shame he's no longer with us. But what was it like getting to work with him? Because I mean, I think most people would say he's like an idol. He's a legend.
Totally, totally. Well, yeah, I grew up watching him like, a lot of people of my age. And I remember I used to watch him with my grandparents around their house on a Saturday. And there was a moment where, I mean, I think it was the first episode I did with him actually, where we were in a hostage situation and we were tied to each other with gaffer tape and we were tied back to back, I think, because it would be the nightmarish pairing would be Anna and and it was yeah, I remember sort of sitting there thinking, God, this is so weird. Imagine if I'd known when I was a child watching Bobby Ball that I was going to be tied to him. And we were tied together for about 2 days, because there was so much filming of us being hostages. But yeah, he was a really lovely, very, very kind man. He was a lovely man.
Now, obviously, in the later series, Lee has moved things on. I
Mm.
mean, I know that you're not in it now, but would you love to go back again in the future, or are you quite happy that you've moved on, sort of thing?
Yeah, there is a possibility I might possibly do. I mean, I'd love to. I'd love to do, go back and visit, maybe do an episode, maybe at some point. Um,
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, basically, yes.
Now, as I say, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. But before we go, I mean, we have to obviously talk about our amazing NHS. That's why we're here. And first of all, what would you like to say to any of the amazing staff who are working tirelessly at the moment within our hospitals? What would you like to say to them?
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much. My mother-in-law's in hospital at the moment, actually, and I spoke to her today this morning, and she not in Reading Hospital, but she just said, "Oh, the nurses are so kind. They're just so kind." She's really, really, um, you know, very, being very, very well cared for. And we're all incredibly grateful. And it feels like, you know, yeah, it's a funny thing when you're an actor and you're talking about yourself, and then you go into a hospital or you need help, and you think, oh, these are the people that are really doing the real stuff.
And I mean, of course, the patients who are listening in hospital, maybe not having the greatest of time at the moment. What messages would you like to send to them?
Well, I'd like to send them my love and get well really soon. And yeah, I hope this has been at all interesting.
I was going to say, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for giving up your time. You're welcome back anytime. Keep safe. And yeah, it's been an absolute honor and a pleasure for me.
Oh, it's been a real pleasure for me. Thanks ever so much for having me.